Chris Barnard grew up in Beaufort West and then went to Cape Town University and eventually travelled overseas to learn about open heart surgery in the very early days when cardiac surgery was in its infancy, and that was in North America. And he spent time there with Owen Wangenstein in Minneapolis. And during that time, he wrote a number of his own theses and doctorates, and was recognized by Dr. Wangenstein as something very special. So he actually got offered a job there, but he was keen to come back to South Africa. And Wangenstein actually gave him an open heart machine. So he arrived back in South Africa with an open heart machine, which was something new to South Africa. It hadn't been used here. And he then developed the Department of Cardiothoracic Surgery at Groote Hospital. And he was very famous for, obviously, doing that, but more importantly, of the work that he did with pediatrics, with children. So he was the first one doing any significant cardiac surgery in young, small babies born with congenital defects. And that evolved to the point where he had a very successful department and ended up by doing the very first heart transplant that everybody knows about, just done at the end of the year, 1967. And then he continues doing a number of transplants in spite of the fact that everybody wanted to get on the bandwagon and do transplants in the early days, but could not emulate his results. His results were excellent.
So Chris Barnard went to America and he was doing it like the Americans. He worked with Americans for 3 years on dogs in the laboratories. And then he came back to South Africa and he carried on working with dogs and carried on doing it like the Americans. But he was not getting much success, because every time he waited for the dog's heart to stop, then he cut the dog open and got to the heart was partially damaged. And he would take this damaged heart, do a transplant, it would be unsuccessful. So he was getting annoyed. And he thought, there's got to be a better way to do this. Now, at that time, he was following American law. So he decided to stop following American law, and he looked at South African law instead. And while he was reading our law, he found a loophole. You know what a loophole is, right? Yeah. He found a way to get around the law. You see, when South African law was talking about donors, this is what our law said. Our law said if you want to take organs from a donor, the donor must be pronounced dead by 2 qualified doctors. Full stop. That was our law. Our law didn't say the brain and the heart had to stop. And our law didn't say how the doctors had to certify the donor dead. So suddenly, Chris Barnard realized he could use a brain-dead donor. Now, your brain, as you know, is almost like your giant computer, sending millions of messages down to your body every second of the day, telling your body what to do. But let's say you're in a car accident, but you don't die in the accident. All that happens in the accident is your head gets so injured that the brain inside your skull dies. But the rest of your body doesn't get the message that your brain is dead. So Chris Barnard discovered if he took a brain-dead person as the donor, once their brain was gone, he could open their chest while the heart was beating. He could stop the heart and immediately take it out. So his hearts were never damaged. And that's how Chris Barnard got to beat the Americans.